injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity.
Martin Luther King once said, quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But what does it truly mean to fight for justice? And how does this shape what it truly means to be American?" We can see this through MLK's dedication to the civil rights movement. MLK has undeniably shaped the lives of many African Americans and has inspired future movements for justice and equality. We can summarize the civil rights movement within categories of culture, immigration, technology, economics, foreign policy, and civil rights. But let's talk a bit more about MLK. MLK's legacy closely resembles the core values and ideals of American identity. MLK represents a fundamental aspect of American life where individuals are not judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. Martin Luther King Jr. is the leader of the American Civil Rights Movement and has dedicated his life to advocating for equality and justice for everyone. He organized many peaceful protests and iconic speeches, including the one shown at the beginning of the video, "I Have a Dream." He fought tirelessly against discrimination in public accommodations, education, and employment. Once again, why did he do this? It was because MLK wanted to make sure that people are not judged by the color of their skin, but their character. He did this by resorting to non-violent means and achieved equal rights for Black Americans and received Nobel Prize in 1964. Sadly, he was shot outside his room at a motel and later died around 7 p.m. at St. Joseph's Hospital. Despite his death, MLK was successful because many African Americans today have civil rights that they would not have if it were not for MLK. He made sure that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 had passed. Some things to consider tied to MLK's legacy are how did he affect the world today and how he impacted American society today. MLK has shaped the world by inspiring many people around the world to stand up for what is right and by creating their own protests and movements. More focused on American society, he helped African Americans have access to civil rights that he fought for. Now looking back at what it means to be an American, how would he respond to the world today, and would he agree with how Americans are today? I believe that he would mostly be happy with what's going on today, as the rights that he fought for still continue to be recognized to this day. One thing he might want to change today is the discrimination that continues to go on today, even after all of the fighting that he did, and try to make a change towards it. Why would MLK stand out to me when it comes to defining what makes an American? I chose MLK for this to be the main figure because he's a well-known figure and he uses non-violent tactics to stand up for what he believes in. Now, let's take a step back and take a look at African Americans as a group. The African American community has a rich history in the fights for civil rights. In the 20th century, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP for short, emerged as an advocate for equality and challenged racial segregation and discrimination. One of the biggest victories came in the mid-20th century with the Supreme Court case Brown v. Board of Education in 1954, which declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. And finally, present day, the Black Lives Matter movement continues the legacy of African Americans today. Even with their victories, they still had their times of struggle, such as the Tuskegee syphilis study, where African American men were deceived and denied treatment for syphilis by the U.S. Public Health Service. However, progress towards equality has been made, exemplified by the Fair House Act of 1968, a piece of legislation that prohibits housing discrimination based on race, color, religion, or national origin. Now let's go back to when I said that we can summarize the civil rights movement within categories of culture, immigration, technology, economics, foreign policy, and civil rights. African Americans utilized culture to express how they felt in times of struggle. During the civil rights movement, art became a form of protest and expressions. Artists like Jacob Lawrence used their work to reflect struggles and aspirations of African Americans. There are many other examples of African Americans contributing to American society, such as the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance helped redefine how America and the world viewed African American culture. Artists like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Duke Ellington gained national fame. Another major aspect of African American history is their migration within the United States. Although they only have one main migration, the Great Migration, it still shows to be important. The Great Migration was one of the largest movements of people in the United States. This movement can be divided into two distinct phases. The first migration, in 1910 to 1940, which saw 1.6 million African Americans move from mostly rural areas in the South to northern industrial cities. The second Great Migration, 1940 to 1970, which began after the Great Depression, brought at least 5 million people to various parts of the country, including many to California. The main reason to migrate was to escape racial violence, pursue education and economics, and obtain freedom from the oppression of Jim Crow. And for the second Great Migration after the Great Depression, many people were baked out, blown out, and broke. Their only choice was to move to California. Technological advancements have further empowered African Americans, providing a new approach for education, expression, and activism. The internet and digital media have played a major role in this. For example, social media platforms have been proven to be a powerful tool for African Americans as they are able to share their stories. Black Lives Matter is a movement that has used social media to raise awareness, increase support, and influence the public. During World War I and World War II, the demand for labor in industries that were war-related had greatly increased. This marked a significant shift as many African Americans moved from the South to the North, as previously mentioned, the Great Migration. Take a look at this shipyard worker's uniform from World War II. Many African Americans found employment in shipyards during World War II, contributing significantly to the war effort. This uniform shows us the economic opportunities and contributions of African Americans during this period. Take a look at this pay. This pay was also greatly impacted during this time. African Americans have immensely contributed to the success of foreign conflicts, particularly through their roles in World War II and the Korean War. The Tuskegee Airmen were the first African American military aviators in U.S. Army Air Corps. They played a major role in the success of the Allied forces during World War II by escorting bombers on missions over Europe. Their excellent combat record helped to dispel racist myths about capabilities of African American soldiers. The success of the Tuskegee Airmen demonstrated the effectiveness and bravery of African American soldiers, contributing to the desegregation of the U.S. military. The Korean War was the first major conflict in which the U.S. military was officially desegregated. African American soldiers served alongside white soldiers, demonstrating their skills and bravery in combat. The integration of the military during the Korean War marked a significant step towards racial equality in the United States. It helped to challenge segregation and discrimination in other areas of American society, setting a model for the civil rights movement. Now, with all that said, let's go back to how this relates to what makes an American. African American history and contributions show us the essence of what it means to be an American. To be an American is to embrace diversity, fight for equality, and continually strive for a society where everyone is judged by their character and not the color of their skin. This ongoing journey towards a more inclusive and just society is at the heart of what it truly means to be American.
Guilty of wrongful deeds, let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.